Dr. Kondamuri. Hey, everybody.
How you doing there, Jim?
All right, man. Let's wait till we get started here. You're not supposed to talk until we start up Facebook Live. He is
Sorry.
the doctor himself. Is Dr. Sean Kondamuri. How you doing, doctor?
Doing fantastic, Jim. How are you?
All right, man. The heat's kind of gotten away, so it just seems like it's helping people out. You know what I mean? Dr. Sean
Thank goodness.
Kondamuri is with Midwest Interventional Spine Specialist, and he does a lot of stuff. Last week, we talked about spinal stenosis, or for some of you phonetically inclined, it's spinal stenosis or sisonets, lanips for all of you folks that, like myself, that carry around a healthy dose of dyslexia. But spinal stenosis is what we talked about that last week. And Doctor is one of the principals of a practice that's in 4 different locations. Let me get it right. Chesterton, Dyer, Munster, and Hobart.
Hobart. There you go.
There you go.
Perfect.
Who's on first? I don't know. Watt's on second. Anyway, we were doing that in the way before we started here. But doctor, you've been a doctor.
I heard it. Never gets old.
It never gets old, man. How long you been a doctor?
I've been practicing since 1996 here in Munster, Indiana. Prior to that, I went to medical school. I finished medical school in 1985. And then I had 7 years of training. I did residency and fellowship for about 7 years before coming out to Munster and opening this practice.
What do they get? Is your sandwich here? Is it time for lunch or what? Is that what that's about?
No, that's my phone is on an intercom, so it'll play in here.
Oh,
okay.
Okay.
Lower the volume here.
No, that's okay. It's actually kind of funny when somebody comes on and says, "Did anybody order the pastrami? Who ordered the pastrami?" Then that would be funny. You know what I mean? And doctor, we know you like to have a lot of fun, but we're in a serious time right now. Let's do it, right? We are in the middle of a pandemic, and it is just so crazy. I have been dealing on my morning show with a lot of folks that are just basically fed up. Can't do it anymore. And at the same time, we've had some record numbers here in Indiana in the last few days. Well over 1,000 people in a day in Indiana. It's getting kind of high. We're getting not quite surging, but getting close. What can you say to people from a medical standpoint that just, I had a guy call in today, said, I can't wear the mask anymore. Another guy said, I just said, screw it. I saw a guy and I just needed to give him a hug. He gave me a hug and we both felt better. We're getting to a point of mental strain that many of us may have not even ever experienced in our whole lives. What do you say from a physical standpoint how we deal with this stuff?
Well, I think the first thing is we got to accept that it's the reality, Jim. I mean, people are getting very stressed. And like you said, it might be the COVID itself, or it might be the after effects of COVID. I mean, the social distancing that we're all kind of forced to undergo, and whether one believes in some of the strict guidelines or not, that adds additional stress, because now you have friends and neighbors who, for example, who say, well, you should wear a mask. And then you have another neighbor who's like, well, I don't believe in wearing a mask. I think it's a bunch of baloney. We don't need to do it. So then it creates stress, not only for the fact that you're having to wear the mask or not wear the mask, but you're feeling stressed because you're maybe having problems with your neighbors or your friends and you're disagreeing on things. It's sort of like disagreeing on politics, right? I mean, that itself, remember we always talk about how if you're in a party or with your friends, you shouldn't talk about politics or religion. Now I think it's like you shouldn't talk about politics, religion, or COVID-19 because everybody's got different opinions about things. So that causes a lot of stress and anxiety. If you're forced to distance yourself because you can't go to certain venues or restaurants you used to go to, you start feeling isolated and lonely. This increases stress and anxiety. People have lost jobs, or people who are in their jobs are being forced to work fewer hours because the employer says, well, I don't have 40 hours a week, I've only got 20. So you've got to work less hours and that's less money coming into your home. That's all stressful. And if you already had issues or anxiety producing conditions like mental health conditions, or if you had difficulty dealing with, for example, alcohol, that all gets worse in a situation like COVID-19 when social distancing is in place. It is an absolute reality. It definitely exists. People are stressed, and it has serious physical, it seriously affects you physically.
Talking to Dr. Sean Kondamuri, and he is a pain doctor and a spine doctor, but also has quite a bit of knowledge about general wellness and stuff, and we've talked about some of these things in the past. Doctor, please define, what's the difference between stress and anxiety, by the way? Is there a difference, or is it kind of...
I mean, from a practical point of view, it's very similar, but stress has more to do with the reaction to something that's happening, how you deal with something. Anxiety is something that is literally a medical condition. I mean, that your body is now exhibiting signs and symptoms of a condition. You start getting sweaty, or you start hyperventilating, your heart rate goes up. You can even have panicky, you can get panicky. It's not uncommon for people to go to the emergency room saying that they have chest pain, and that chest pain is really a panic attack, which is anxiety, which came from stress. So I think it's more of a cause and effect that we're talking about here.
So the stress and anxiety is at pretty high levels. I think that's pretty accepted, right? So
Correct.
What if we were to do this and it was to go on for another 6 months or even a year? What are the kind of things from a general, population health? What kind of things might start developing?
I think it's very serious, because it's going to start showing itself with the typical medical problems getting worse. People are going to show up, the doctors up with hypertension, and show up with heart attacks, chest pain, and any number of worsening of conditions. Like if you've got a kidney condition or diabetes, that's going to get worse. Anxiety or stress causes an increase in blood glucose levels. And if you are not managing your blood glucose levels, for example, your sugars are going to go up. And if you're eating in a way that is, typically when people are stressed out, they eat wrong. They start eating sugary foods. They eat chocolate. They eat foods that make them feel good. And sometimes eating foods that make you feel good is going to, especially if you're diabetic, could lead to hyperglycemia and dangerous medical conditions.
Doctor, we're getting into. Go ahead, keep going.
I was going to say that if we're not aware of the need to reduce your stress and anxiety, it's only going to build up. So I think it's important. I'm glad you brought this up now, because this is something we need to talk about. People need to know that this whole COVID-19 situation is going to be COVID-20 and COVID-21. It's going to be here next year in some way, shape, or form. So all the stress that we're dealing with may get worse. They may not, but they may get worse. And if they do, and you're not ready for it, if you haven't figured out a way to build up the resilience to bounce back from periods of high stress, then you're going to let it overtake you. So you have to think about how to best handle it.
COVID-20 and COVID-21. Wow, Doc. I sure hope that.
I
know you made that up.
Really,
it doesn't have to.
Because the disease is called 19.
Because of 2019? Is that because
Correct.
Because of the year? I didn't know that.
Yes, it was discovered in 2019. So even next year, we'll still call it COVID-19.
Even if it goes into like COVID-21 or whatever, right? Doc, we're at about we're over 180,000 deaths here in America. And in some areas, they've been able to get a much better handle on it. And it's like, everyone's got a theory on why Germany has 14 cases in a day and we've got, tens of thousands in a day. I mean, just from looking at it from the cheap seats, what are we doing wrong here, Doc?
Oh, I don't. That's a loaded question, Jim.
I know that
that's a really loaded question.
Not so much. What are we doing wrong? What could we do better? How's that sound?
So I can't tell you from a public policy perspective. I can't tell you what we've done wrong, because if I knew that, if I knew that, I should be not only talking to you, but I should be talking to our leaders, our governmental leaders, and we should be solving the problem. So I don't know what we're really doing wrong or what we're doing right. But from a more personal or community perspective, I think that we have a responsibility to help ourselves and help our friends and family by doing the right thing so that we can weather this storm a little bit better. I think that's the most important thing. You have to deal with the stress of COVID in different ways so that you can live a happier life.
Deal with the stress of COVID in happier ways so you can live a less stressful life. And I'll tell you what, Doc, last week, I don't know why it was last week, maybe it has gotten to a point where people are just kind of fed up, but I felt I probably take at least 100 phone calls in a week on the air and a bunch of hey Jed messages and stuff, and it seems as if the stress and anxiety even though the weather's great, and a lot of people are outside and the humidity's sucking out of the air, it seems like we're reaching a point where it is kind of coming to a head, and I can feel it on the air, and that's as good of an anecdotal evidence as I can see. And I mean, I don't. People ask me, why is that? I don't know. I mean, I think it's just length, and just day after day after day. I mean, it's almost like having you're reminded of every day, every minute of every day. You're reminded of it. When you have to go to your doctor's office, and if you're one who doesn't believe in wearing a mask, and all of a sudden the sign on the door says you are not allowed to come in unless you're wearing a mask, that begins to irritate you, and you don't even believe you don't believe the professionals, you don't believe the advisors who are telling you to do these things, and that adds stress. And then you have to be forced to do things that are very different all the time. And now there's more of a push for people who are sort of a blame game, where people are making you feel guilty because you're choosing a particular opinion, a free opinion, and people make you feel guilty for having that opinion. Yeah, I mean, I do see that. Yeah, I mean, there's definite.
Fair, but
yeah, there's a big continuum of like, oh well, everyone should wear a mask and not get anywhere near each other, and there shouldn't be any school or any of that. And then there are folks that are like, screw it, I don't care. And most people are somewhere in the middle of all of that, and they look around, and they're like, I mean, to me, the stress is as much dealing with the reality of things as is dealing with the uncertainty of things. I mean, nobody knows. You hear different. Yeah.
We were talking just last week, Jim. I mean, how does a normal citizen live when he hears, for example, the Big Ten has said they're not going to play football, right? We have no football at the Big Ten at the college level. But then, like if you live in Ohio, the governor in Ohio, a week after Ohio State said we're not going to have football because the Big Ten said no football, and then he allows high schools to play football. And then now the Cincinnati Bengals are playing football, and the Cleveland Browns are playing football. So you've got high school and NFL playing, college is not playing. So one has to think, how is it different? It just doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean,
so if you're just living in this society, you're really doubting people now. You're wondering what's going on.
Well, I mean, a similar situation's happening right here, right, in Indiana, and that we're doing high school football games on Friday night. The Colts are getting ready to play, and IU and Purdue are sitting on the sidelines. I mean, we see Big Ten parents marching, why did we make this decision? Why aren't we playing? It's not too late. Let's come back, that kind of stuff. And I agree with you. The Big Ten, we didn't really think about it until it became Saturday, and they should have been playing yesterday or 2 days ago. And everybody's like, oh, my God, what am I going to do? I worked in my garage. I'm always listening to the game. What's going on? I'm listening to music. It gets a little bit old.
And it seems as if the NCAA has sort of dug in their heels, at least at the Big Ten level, and they're not willing to reassess, because it doesn't make sense when the NFL is playing and when the high schools are playing. I don't understand what it is. And again, I don't want to criticize anyone, but you have to wonder what the difference is.
He's Dr. Sean Kondamuri. Right now, if you guys want to call, we can take some questions. Doctor is pretty plugged into the wellness scene and to COVID. Doctor, we do need to remind people, we talked a little bit about spinal stenosis last week, and that you've had some major, you guys got some pretty high-level treatments. Just remind people what spinal stenosis is. I know it's one of the things that you guys treat a lot.
Right. Spinal stenosis is a condition that causes it's a condition in which there's narrowing of the spine. So the spine becomes narrower. And if the spine is narrower, those sensitive nerve tissues, like the spinal nerves, can get compressed by the bones that have gotten narrow, or compressed by just the swelling and the inflammation in that canal. So that causes pain and tingling and numbness in your back and legs, especially when you walk or when you stand. And you get better when you rest. And I should mention, actually, Jim, since we're talking about spinal stenosis, we next Wednesday, September 9th, we're doing a webinar for our patients and for anybody else who wants to watch. And it'll be all about spinal stenosis and some advanced treatments. We're calling it Control Your Pain online event. So I should just let you know, and your listeners know, if they want to come to our website, spinecaremw.com, just go to the website. You can click on a registration button, and you can watch that on Wednesday, September 9th.
Do you know what time on that day?
So that we'll talk a lot about this. Yeah, 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Wednesday, September 9th.
5 p.m. Wednesday, Sep 9. And around how long is that, Doc?
It'll be an hour.
An hour? Okay.
An hour. It'll be an educational program, and we'll talk in a little bit of detail about some of the options that patients have for treating their spinal stenosis and treating other painful conditions. But mainly, we're going to focus on spinal stenosis.
There it is. We're talking. That's one of the things that the doctor and the other partners and the PAs and NPs and everybody deals with on a regular basis. Doctor, let's go back to how we know that you like to talk about wellness, and you like to kind of take the entire human being as an organism and bring it together. Right now, we talked that you ride your bike a lot. I ride my bike a lot. Record numbers of people out there. You can't find a bike mechanic right now if your bike breaks. You can't buy a bike, and if the worst is if your bike breaks down and you got to take it in, you'll see it in 2 months. So you might as well just buy a new bike at that point. And it's getting pretty expensive. I went out and I played golf twice this weekend, and both times it was just packed on these golf courses. But it's going to get cold.
Right.
It's going to start getting cold. And next thing you know, it's going to be really cold. So people aren't going to be able to ride their bike as much, and there's going to be ice on the paths. And they're not going to be able to play golf as much because there's going to be ice on the golf courses. Suggestions going forward as it gets cold.
Yeah, I mean, so if the gyms are still closed, that's a big problem. If the gyms are open and if you're comfortable going to the gym, you might have to wear a mask, you might have to do a lot of cleaning of the equipment. I would encourage you to get into the gym. It's just a matter of whether or not you're comfortable doing that. But if you are, at least get into the gym, and you can walk on a treadmill. You can ride a bike at the gym. If you have a treadmill at home, you can walk on a treadmill at home. You can get onto the internet, and you can turn on your television, watch a YouTube video, and you can watch some videos of exercise routines. There's plenty, I mean, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of videos out there, and a couple of good, I mean, I recommended, I think to you last time, some website called HasFit. HasFit is I thought it was a pretty good, cardio program that they present with using very little equipment at your own home, and you can now do some body, total body exercises. And they have very beginner programs as well as intermediate and advanced programs. But you really have the opportunity to exercise at home, without having to go outside. I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. I mean, you have to the kind of exercise we're talking about depends on your age group. But if you're young, there's really not a lot of limitations. You're able to do a lot of high intensity interval training in your own home, whether you have a treadmill or a stationary bike, or if you're going to do aerobic classes online. If you're older, you should at least walk, in your house. You can walk around your house. You can walk at a grocery store. You can, go to a grocery store and hold onto a shopping cart and walk around the aisles and just look around for 20 to 30 minutes. And that's huge, or you can just walk on your own. Again, if you're comfortable going out to a grocery store in the winter during COVID-19.
But we do have a couple of months where some people consider it the best weather there is around here. And right now, today, is just an amazing thing. I'll even show it on the screen. I mean, right there, it's outside. It's just, I walked inside. I was like, whoa, I got to go inside. And, that's what it is. We all got to make a living so we can go outside later and ride our bikes. Right. But you're talking right now, bike riding at an all-time high level. Wicker Park over here, all you got to do is drive down Ridge Road, and you see, oh my God, there's people walking with masks on. It's so crowded. There's people after person. It's the most I've ever seen there in all the years that I've been going there. And then, of course, the same thing for the golf courses. And so, I mean, what can you say about just getting outside? I mean, and not only that, how about like seeing people working in their yards? You look around, it's like the whole world, it's like everybody's taking care of their yards now because they got nothing to do. You know what I mean? And
also because you can't go anywhere else, so you want to at least enjoy your own backyard. People put up a lot of swimming pools this summer. People are kind of finishing their deck. They're doing things in their backyard to beautify their backyards and their homes because we are spending a whole lot more time at home. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as you've got, something to do and you've got somebody to do it with.
Dr. Body, Mind, Spirit, I think you've come up before with eat less, move more, stress less, and love more. Correct? Did I get that
Yeah,
right?
that's great.
I love those
That's
like 8 word
right. You got
things.
it.
There it is. You only need 8 words. Here's how you live, right? But
That's easy.
body, mind, spirit. We're talking a lot about the body right now. Keep the body going. It fights off infection better. It helps you recover. All that. Talk about the mind right now. You know, it's a muscle, and you got to exercise it. You got to keep it open. You obviously want to reduce your stress and anxiety. That was one of the things we talk about. What other mental things in a pandemic can you look at as just you, not necessarily as a doctor?
Yeah, so you don't need a doctor to do what I'm about to tell you. I mean, you're in the middle of a pandemic. There's all kinds of news there's all kinds of news on the television or on the internet that makes life very stressful. You have to get away from it. You really should be taking breaks from the news. You shouldn't be listening, watching, or reading the news beyond a few minutes a day. I mean, the last thing you want to do is just keep on exposing yourself to all that stress and just anxiety. So, number one, I say cut back on your exposure to the news. And then when you're talking about like your mind and clearing your mind and getting relaxed, you need to think about just simple breathing exercises, meditation. Have you heard the term mindfulness, Jim?
Oh, I have, but yeah, I go ahead,
So
talk about it, and I'll tell you what I think is part of the problem with that. But anyways, go ahead.
Well, so I mean, it's really not that complicated. I mean, just really mindfulness means, you want to create space for yourself to think, to breathe, to put space between ourselves and our reactions. Because there's how we respond to something. So if the external world, the environment, throws something at us that gets us upset, you either get upset or you deal with it in an easy, relaxed way, and it doesn't ruin the rest of your day. So if you think of like mindfulness, if you look at our brains as, for example, an MP3 player or a music player, okay? So you can put it on fast forward. You can press the fast forward button, which means you're kind of looking into the future. You're always thinking about what's ahead of you and getting stressed about what the next stress is going to be. What's going to happen with the election? What's going to happen with my job? Or you can press the rewind button. You can look backwards. You can think about all the stress of my life. What my mother did to me when I was younger, or what my brother did to me, or the stress that, how somebody treated me at work. All these things that happen in your past that you start ruminating over. And if you start ruminating over them, they become even worse and worse. So mindfulness is basically not fast forward, not rewind. You're basically now keeping that button on play. You're pressing the play button, and you're only thinking about the present moment only. You're completely aware. Your attention is dedicated to the present moment of our experience. You're not thinking about what's behind you or in front of you. You're just trying to keep involved with whatever's happening now.
Doctor,
and if you do that, it helps you deal with things.
All right, doctor. So I get it, and I understand that. But I think that what has happened here, and just as from listening to all the people that call and interviews and all the interviews I do, and that a lot of people are able to go from moment to moment to moment to moment, getting their stuff done, working, living their lives, and they don't have to take that moment to stop and have an awareness and grounding and reminding themselves to be in the now or into the moment. So they're not used to that. And it's an entirely different a skill set to get an awareness of that. And where do you start? A lot of people don't even know how to start.
True. So I'll tell you, first of all, what you said, Jim, is it's something that is a new thing and we don't know about it. Everything that we deal with in life is new. Whatever we're doing now, we probably didn't do last year. When you and I were in, if you and I go back 10 years, we didn't have social media the way we have it now. We didn't even have an iPhone until 2000. This thing only came in 2007. It's only been 13 years since we've had one of these. Prior to that, we managed. So there's always something new. We learn how to use this. You'll learn how to, if you want to do it, you can learn it. Learning a mindfulness practice is not hard. And like you said, people don't know what to do. I mean, I can tell you what to do. It's not that complicated. It's really very easy. You just have to be willing to try something that's different, and not be scared that it's like too new age or too like, kind of, like they do something they do in California. It's even in the Midwest, we can pick up some of those good things and learn to relax and, just take a minute. And we're talking, for example, I mean, if I want to tell you how you can practice mindfulness, I'll just tell you this. So once or twice a day, maybe just even once a day, maybe for 5 or 10 minutes, even 5 minutes, you just find a comfortable place to sit down. You don't have to sit down on the ground and cross your legs. A lot of people can't cross their legs and they can't get up from the ground once they do that. You want to find a nice, comfortable chair, like a chair in your kitchen that has a kind of a firm back to it. Sit down in that chair and make sure there's not a lot of distractions around you. Make sure the kids aren't running around you, so it's kind of quiet. Either turn off the television, turn off the radio, or turn on some nice, gentle music, something peaceful. And close your eyes, and all you're doing is you're going to focus on your breathing. So when your eyes are closed, you just think of yourself breathing in and breathing out.
All right, I'm going to try it right now. Ready?
Try it right now. Close your eyes.
All right. Did I do that?
That doesn't help.
Did I do that?
I don't know.
Where did that come from? Jesus. All right, well, something. That was a little bit
I have to plug my computer in, Jim. I'm kind of running out of battery here.
All right, well, go ahead, because I'll just start breathing. All right, ready?
You start breathing.
Ah.
Peter or Joe, call on 11. Peter or Joe, call on 11.
Peter, Joe, the pastrami's here. Pastrami sandwich. Peter, Joe. Pastrami sandwich.
Okay. Are we back? Oh, what happened now? My
Wow.
lights went out. Oh, boy.
Oh, don't worry about it. We got you, Doc. We're right at the end here anyways.
Can you see me?
I can see you.
Okay,
You're
yeah,
fine.
So feel your breath. All right, you want to feel your breath. Imagine, just kind of focus on breathing in and out. And thoughts are going to come into your head. And when they do come into your head, be kind to yourself. Your mind's going to wander. You don't have to get mad at yourself or obsess over the fact that something came into your head. You just want to ignore and just recognize the thoughts and focus back on your breathing. And obviously it's hard to do this when you first start, but to do that for 5 minutes, after a while, that 5 minutes will go by in a minute. And after a while, you'll do it for 10 or 15 minutes, and that 10 or 15 minutes will go by in just a few minutes. You won't even realize it.
Sorry, I keep breathing really heavy in your face.
No problem.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm not a big believer in two things, Doc. So I'm not the best patient here or the best person. I don't believe in drinking water, and I don't believe in doing breathing exercises. Not that I wouldn't do them. I just never have. You know what I mean?
Right.
All right. Next time we do this, we're going to open up with breathing exercises. All right. We'll put a little music in the background, and we'll do some breathing exercises. All right.
There's my light.
Get your light back
good.
on.
I like that. My light's back on.
There you go. You look good though, Doc.
So if you have, I was going to say, if you have a mindful, just to finish this up, if you have a mindfulness practice, it helps you build sort of a resilience, so you can bounce back from periods of high stress, or you can maintain normal functioning when you're going through high stress. So if it's a stressful period, you'll be able to handle it a little bit better, and you really will. I mean, just to say, it's not me saying this. There's been studies on military groups, like military cohorts, military spouses, students who are taking tests. So people who are in very stressful conditions, they've shown very clearly that mindfulness helps those groups do really well. Handle stress better? Do
you find yourself yawning when you do that? Like, gosh,
if you're tired, you will.
Yeah, just relax, and I'm like, gosh, now I want to go to sleep.
Yeah, if you're tired and you're sitting back and relaxing, you're gonna fall asleep. I mean, you're gonna get sleepy. So obviously, it's also part of this is trying to get good regular sleep. But I mean, don't feel bad if you do get tired.
All right, man.
You shouldn't feel bad about it.
It's got to get through from day to day, baby.
They'll tell you they're relaxed.
Hour to hour, day to day. That's what I tell the folks in the morning. We just got to move forward and hopefully just keep pushing it forward. And then eventually the Red Sea is going to part and there's going to be sunshine and we're all going to kind of get past some of this. Doc, thanks like always, man. You give us hope.
There you go.
All right.
Thank you, Jim.
Until next time, we're going to open up with some breathing exercises next time. See you later.
Fantastic.
Talk to you soon.
Have a
All
good
right.
one. Bye,
There it is. Dr. Kondamuri. You can catch this on Facebook. You can catch